I made a video a couple weeks ago that I'm sure many of you saw where I talked about custom Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I mentioned some of the issues with those cards, but one of the things that I mentioned was that there wasn't a really great way to share and post and talk about custom Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Now, some of you actually pointed out that there are a few smaller custom card communities, but there was nothing on the scale of something like the Hearthstone subreddit for custom cards. That was until now, so I didn't actually plan this. I had no idea this was happening. But a couple days after I posted that video, Dueling Book, a free-to-play Yu-Gi-Oh platform for anyone really, you can actually now design your own custom cards, but wait, there's more. You can actually play with them as well as look up everyone else's really easily, and this is awesome. This is something that I know Yu-Gi-Oh Pro has messed around with. I know you can't upload your own custom cards, but there are so many great things about Dueling Book with these custom cards that can't be done anywhere else. For example, because Dueling Book is a manual simulator, you can actually use these cards in duels with existing cards, or you can make your own deck entirely out of custom cards. There's so many cool options for you to do with these custom cards, and it looks like, I mean, from what I can see, the custom card lobby on Dueling Book's website is extremely full. People are just lining up to play with their own cards, and that's really exciting. But also, you can look up anyone's custom card if they've designed it and uploaded it, and that's one of the coolest benefits from Dueling Book, which has, I mean, it's ripped from Dueling Network, but the card search system on Dueling Network and Dueling Book is by far my favorite out there, and it's even better for searching these custom cards. So just to show what I'm talking about, when you open up the deck builder, you have all your normal search options, but one of the things that they added was more options, and then you can look at still all your stuff here, but you can look at no custom cards, my custom cards, or all custom cards. And this is really cool. You don't have to always go into that separate window where you're creating cards, and you can look up literally every custom card that someone has made. You can look it up new first, you can look it up by like alphabetical, and at the moment there are 1,500 pages of these custom cards. That is a lot of custom cards, and this has only been up a few weeks, and you'll find all sorts of custom cards on this. You'll find the ones that I've talked about in the last video, the good ones, the bad ones, and in today's video, now that they have this out there, I actually want to review some of the cool ones that I found as well as some of the bad ones as well. But this is such a huge thing for the custom card community. I do want to say I don't actually want you to send me your custom cards. I maybe should have said that a little bit earlier in that last video as well. I think that it's cool that people make their own custom cards, and it's fun when I can go out here and just look through the custom cards that people have posted, but in general, I don't actually want my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed just full of custom cards. I found that one of the interesting things from posting that video is that pretty much everyone started their own comment with the exact same thing, saying, I know you said you don't want custom cards sent, I know you said that you don't like custom cards, but I think you'll really enjoy mine. And while everyone does have the best intentions, seeing that same thing posted like 500 times over the course of the last couple weeks that video's been up definitely wasn't what I was expecting or asking for. So I might review more custom cards after this video, but please don't send them to me unless I ask you to. I'll definitely have a time and a place for custom cards if I want to see them in future videos. But for now, I just want to go through some of the funnier and the better custom cards that I found while looking on this new Dueling Book sort of application. Starting off on a more simpler side of things, one of the first sort of archetypes that I saw that I actually thought was pretty decent, even though it was probably made by a little kid judging from how it's written, were these toy soldier cards, and they all had the same basic effect. If this card is searched from a deck to your hand, you can special summon it, which I think is a cool mechanic. It's something that Wadapon does, but Wadapon doesn't really have an upside, so no one's really going to play it, but they all have then on summon special effects. So for example, Green Soldier, when this card is special summon, you can destroy one card your opponent controls. You can only use each effect this card once per turn. The person that made these actually had the foresight to do these once per turn things, although it's not technically written as a hard once per turn. I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to be read. And I know that these seem very simplistic, but keep in mind, especially if you watch the other video, just the fact that these effects are fairly balanced and kind of interesting makes them leagues better than many of the custom cards that are out there right now. Another archetype that I kind of enjoyed was these crocodile monsters. One of my favorites was called Funny Croc, so it's a level 3 Earth Beast Warrior monster, and its effect is pretty straightforward. Once per turn, you can swap this card with an opponent's monster on the field. Basically, it is a creature swap. I'm assuming the person who wrote this meant that you can use this effect when it's on the field, not in your hand. That'd be a lot better, but I just think this card's really funny, and actually, I do think it would be played in some decks, because one key part of this card, as well as many of the other crocodile cards, which weren't nearly as good, is that this can be searched with Fire Formation Tenki, and I think that's kind of neat. Whenever you make cards that can be searched by things like Tenki, or Reinforcing the Army, or Fossil Dig, it definitely increases their playability because you only have to play one copy of it in a deck that would play Tenki. In any deck that is playing Beast Warriors, this is basically a one card out to many monsters that are out there right now, and even as the way it's written right now, it technically doesn't target like Creature Swap. Obviously, the problem-solving card text, that'd be a little trickier to say. It would either have to target and you get to choose, or it'd be a creature swap where your opponent gets to pick. It's a little unclear, but I think if I was to design this card with problem-solving card text, I would make it exactly like creature swap, where your opponent gets to choose which thing to give you, so that it's kind of like a Gradle effect, except that you can activate it immediately. The last good card that I want to talk about, which by the way wasn't necessarily like the only set of good cards that I found, it's just I can only talk about so many cards in this video, but this one is just bursting with flavor and lore. I just love it. So it's called Max D, and obviously the picture is of little d with a color swap, and then it has basically the exact same effect as Max C, which is currently banned, except it only counts for extra deck summons. And to be completely honest, I mean, besides the fact that this card is hilarious, it has tons of jokes around it, I actually think this is a pretty good design to Max C, like an improvement on the Max C design. Part of the reasons Max C was so powerful and so oppressive to a lot of rogue strategies was because you could chain it to special summons that weren't from the extra deck and then really set your opponent back. If your opponent activated a card like a Burning Abyss monster, not only would they get the special summon if you tried to summon Dante, but they'd also get draws from the special summons leading up to the Dante. So I think a card like this would be a lot more fair. And then like I said with the last one, because this card is a dinosaur, you can search it in dinosaur strategies. I'm a huge fan of dinosaurs. I think this is an excellent fit. It's also a tuner monster, giving it even more added versatility. Maybe not the most original card out there, but I think it's a really cool and unique take on the Max C effect that we all know, love, or maybe despise. Anyway though, now that I've talked about some good cards, and like I said, there certainly were other good cards, but I mean, come on, the bad cards, they're way more fun to look at. So let's start by looking at one, and this one is really funny because they literally just copy and pasted the entire effect of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and I don't understand why. Maybe they were trying to play an all custom card deck, and this is their way of sort of cheesing out a really good card into their deck. I'm not entirely sure, and it's not the only card that I saw that was just copying and pasted from other cards. Actually, in some cases, they actually literally copy and pasted all of the card, the name, the artwork, the attack, the defense, the stats, the effect, everything. I'm not sure what they were really doing, but in the case of this card, it is at least a different artwork, different name, but it is also just literally Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which I found pretty silly. Of course, you have your monster effects that have literally so much text that you cannot understand any of it. On Dueling Book, it's a little bit easier to read these cards because you can actually scroll down and see all the text where it is, but in the case of just a screenshot, it's so hard to read this card, it's just a mess. But honestly, most of the cards I came across, at least on Dueling Book, didn't look as bad as this one. On the other hand, there were some cards that were the exact opposite that were way too simplistic and just simply overpowered. For example, there was this lizard card that I found, and it's pretty much a non-effect monster except for one tiny little detail that says when this card is summoned, draw one card. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but keep in mind this is a non-once per turn effect. It is an effect that goes off of every type of summon, and that is way too crazy. If you can just imagine the infinite loops with this card, it is just mind-blowing. And this is a good example of someone sort of applying a minimalist approach to designing these cards. I mean, this card, like I said, is almost a normal monster, only has one sentence, it doesn't even take up an entire line, and yet that one one sentence, that one effect happens to just be so broken. This is literally just Disc Commander, except instead of drawing 2 cards, it draws 1 card, but it has a bunch of benefits on top of that, namely the fact that, like, compared to the eroded version of Disc Commander, it is not a hard once per turn effect. This card would be insane. I'm sure there'd be so many loops with it, especially involving cards like Firewall Dragon, and I think that the person who created this probably wasn't really thinking that way. They were just thinking, probably, if I normal summon this card, I get to draw a card. That doesn't seem that broken, but obviously in a more competitive context, this card would be insane for many FTK and Exodia strategies. Admittedly, I don't know if this next card is a pop culture reference that I do not understand, but there's this Enigma card, and it's a rank 8 monster that takes 3 level 8 monsters, and it says up to 20 times per turn, destroy all cards your opponent controls and banish their hand. Like I said, I don't know if it's a pop culture reference that is making a reference to something that like uses its effect 20 times, but even if it is, this card is obviously horribly overpowered. It obviously was not designed to be balanced in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually surprised that this person who designed this made this take 3 level 8 monsters, because with the effect design, I would sort of guess that they would just make it take 2 level 8 monsters, because clearly they want this card to be overpowered. I don't really know about this card, but when I saw it, I just kind of laughed because its effect is that ridiculous. And finally, I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to end it on the 2 cards that actually made me want to do this video in the first place, because they were just so laughably bad. This was like my first experience with the Dueling Book custom cards, and oh man, are they funny. So the main one that I was laughing at was Minecraft Steve, and the reason that this card is funny, I mean, obviously it's Minecraft, it's a pop culture reference, that's already funny in and of itself. There are obviously, if you go on Dueling Book, there's a lot of Fortnite cards as well, because that game's really popular right now, but I think what's funny about this card, you might not notice it if you just read the effect quickly, this is a card that searches equip spells that can't be targeted with equip spells. I just think that is the most funny and unintentional sort of problem with this card's design that clearly the creator did not have in mind. I don't know if they meant this card couldn't be targeted by your opponent's cards, but the way it's written, this is an equip spell searcher that can't be equipped with spells, and I just think that is hilarious. Now there is the other Minecraft card that I guess is meant to be equipped with stuff, but that one's already like really just blown out of proportion, so it doesn't really count for that kind of thing. I just read Minecraft Steve and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do a video about this because this is just way too funny not to talk about. Anyway though, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will repeat myself here. Please do not send me your custom cards on Twitter. It's nothing against you guys. I just really want things on my Twitter feed other than custom cards. I won't say bad custom cards because they're not all terrible, but I just don't want a feed full of custom cards when I haven't asked for those. If this video does well and I do another one, I will once again just look on Dueling Book at the most recent cards that have been uploaded. If I ever do a custom card from subscribers, I will mention it in a video. I will put out a tweet. I will put out a post in the community tab, so you can save your custom cards for me for whenever that happens, if it does happen down the line. I will see you guys later though. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.